Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. What a great week this has been. Every night with 4 different TCM fans joining me here as a special guest programmer to introduce one of their favorite films. But all good things eventually do have to come to an end, and right now we have as our guest the 20th of our special 20 Ultimate Film fans. He's Peter Tulba of New York City. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Robert.
Good to have you here.
A pleasure to be here, an absolute pleasure.
Thanks. Now, Peter's chosen a perfect film for a finale of this special event. The film is from 1938. It's in blazing Technicolor. It's always high on the list when anybody talks about the great adventure films of all time. It's The Adventures of Robin Hood, directed by Michael Curtiz and William Keighley. Great movie, but before we get into the movie, we have to talk a little about you. Sure. You work for Disney.
I do.
Right?
Yes.
And you're a good friend of a couple of friends of mine at Disney.
So I come to understand.
Yes, and I know that that you're a great movie fan, and you show us your little book you have here.
Well, this is a journal that I started because of my mom.
And you started about when you were about how old?
When I was 9 years old.
9 years old.
And my mom also started when she was 9 years old. She writes down the date, the title, the actors, the director, and the theater that she saw any film she ever seen in. And the first one in her first book was Ben-Hur. And now I can't compete with that. The first movie in my first book is Fievel Goes West, which is not quite on par with Ben-Hur, but
a little off.
Apples and oranges,
yes.
Apples and oranges. But the book that I have now, I have kept up with it, and I go through 2014, and Her, the Spike Jonze film, was the last movie that I have in here.
And do you also make your comments about the film?
No comments. It's really just to help me remember everything that I've seen.
So the theater, the cast, and the title.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
It's a great tradition, and I credit my love of movies entirely to her. My sainted mother.
Yes. So why did you pick Adventures of Robin Hood?
It's one of my all-time favorites. You have stars being big movie stars. You said blazing Technicolor, the colors, the greens, the reds, the yellows, they just pop off the screen. It was one of the first movies that I saw, and I make this connection a lot, where aliens could land on Earth, and you could show them Adventures of Robin Hood, and they would get it. They would get Hollywood cinema.
Right.
It's just, oh my God, it's just incredible. Errol Flynn, just the whole movie, this wink in his eye, that's just so magical. And Olivia de Havilland is gorgeous. Basil Rathbone is just doing his thing.
The best villains in the world.
He's fantastic.
And Claude Rains, yes.
And I mean, it's just wonderful. Eric Wolfgang Korngold's score.
I was going to say that music score.
I keep it on my iPod for a reason.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
Now, your love of the movies, did you ever think about being a filmmaker, or did you want to be an actor?
I went to NYU, and I majored in cinema studies, which is it's a fantastic program at the school. I don't know if I ever had the temperament to be on a film set all day long. Many of my friends are, and it's fantastic. But I love I'm home in a dark room watching movies, and that is where my interest lies, and I loved it. I tried out for one show in high school, first semester freshman year. It was Arsenic and Old Lace. They had me read lines with somebody who was absolutely terrible, and I took that as a sign that it was not meant to be. So,
but you weren't terrible necessarily.
I don't know how I was. I am always my
Well, I think
critic.
you got in the right end of it, and you're enjoying your work with Disney. And,
absolutely.
And you're in show business and
doing
all of that.
Yeah, so here I am.
Well, it's great, and it's great to have you as a guest programmer.
Thank you.
And for bringing this adventure of ours to an end. With this
I can't
wonderful
believe
movie.
This is it.
So let's have a look. Here it is. From 1938, starring Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland with Basil Rathbone and Claude Rains. Great cast in The Adventures of Robin Hood. Wow, what a great movie that is. And I'm here with the man who chose it for us as our last and final special TCM Ultimate Fan guest programmer, Peter Tulba. Welcome back, Peter.
Thank you, Robert.
Now, I understand that in college you wrote a special dissertation on Michael Curtiz.
I did. For the Cinema Studies program, there was no reel you had to produce. They asked you to write something about any element of film that spoke to you, and I picked Michael Curtiz because the breadth of his filmmaking, I just love that about old Hollywood. Nobody had a type. Michael Curtiz directed westerns, he directed swashbucklers, he directed noir, he directed musicals, and I just couldn't believe that you see filmmakers today, and there are many tremendous ones, but everybody kind of has a set that they work from, their style, exactly. And the style really was the studio, Warner Brothers, that they would have, you knew what you were watching. And Michael Curtiz just was able to step onto any set and make a great film no matter what the genre was. And to a young, impressionable teenager, the fact that there were directors like this was just, incredible. And I wrote my paper about Michael Curtiz. He directed Adventures of Robin Hood, Casablanca, Mildred Pierce, all of these films that have
Yankee
seemingly
Doodle
nothing.
Dandy.
Yankee
Yes.
Doodle Dandy, exactly, a
Where'd that come
musical.
from?
That seemingly have nothing to do with each other,
Yeah.
but he is the
link.
thread between
Yeah.
them all. And I just, his career was just so endlessly fascinating to
Yeah.
me.
Peter, you got a spot in our festival by producing or introducing a movie, right? And
That
sending
is
a
correct.
videotape of that.
I did.
And what movie did you pick and
I
introduce?
picked Walt Disney's 1964 film Mary Poppins.
Yes.
Which, in addition to the film having a special place in my heart, working at Disney, I was fortunate enough to work on the musical version, the Broadway production of Mary Poppins. And it actually played in the theater where our offices are, the New Amsterdam Theater on 42nd Street. So the movie and the title just have a great resonance with me, and it just seemed like an obvious choice. I shot it in the lounge in the basement of the theater, and just the history there. I understand they rehearsed My Fair Lady in that building. Just the history of that building, it just felt right.
And all the old Ziegfeld Follies.
All the old Ziegfeld
Yeah.
Follies, exactly.
Well, such a pleasure. Good to have you here.
Robert, thank you so
and
much.
Thanks for helping bring our festival to an end.
I'm honored, absolute honor.
You're a great
This has been
guest
wonderful.
programmer. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Peter. And that may be the end of our week with special TCM fan guest programmers. But as always, here at TCM, we have more films coming up. And since this is TCM, there, of course, are going to be uncut and commercial free. So stick around.